some of the greatest despair that I encounter in people when I work with them at retreats or otherwise is that sense that the patterns have been going and going and going for decades and decades, that they're really, really stuck in a self that they don't like. That is probably the greatest despair. It's got a kind of hopeless feeling like the patterns are so strong. And the, going into whatever the aversion is and the judgment towards others, or it may be the pattern of, I'm still pushing others away with my neediness, the grasping, and I can't, what am I supposed to do with that insecurity? Or the pattern of controlling other people and how that ends up affecting intimacy, or the patterns of depression or overeating, whatever it is. They seem really, really very locked in. How apologetic we can get, or accommodating, whatever the pattern. So the good news is this, that no matter how tenacious the patterning seems, and this is the truth, it's mutable, it's changeable, that it's a habit. And just as habits are created, habits can be undone. So that our personal identity, this somebodyhood that feels so core, is not really core. It's very strong, but it can be dissolved. We can awaken from that sense of self. And this is at the very heart of the path, a trust that that's possible. And even if we feel like, yeah, but I don't have that trust, just to know that it's possible to awaken the trust if you want to. That can be your prayer. It may be, I don't trust I can ever change, but my prayer is to trust that. Do you see what I'm saying? Even if you're feeling the core problem of, I'm stuck and I don't trust it'll ever be different, if you wish it could be different, pray for it, because in reality, and this is one of the most powerful of the Buddha's teachings, he said, I would not teach you about the possibility of happiness and freedom if it were not so. Trust it or pray to trust it. Because there's something that we long for. There's a love we long for. We long to love without holding back. We long to live in something more whole, more true, more real, more connected. And if we long for it, it's because something in us knows about it. And we can't know about it unless it's there. It's part of us in some way. So, science, of course, confirms that it's mutable, that in the last 15, 20 years, neuroplasticity has become the languaging of it. And it's a metaphor for us that's as useful as anything else, that neurons that fire together, wire together, which means that if you keep having certain kinds of thoughts and certain kinds of feelings, they'll get wired together and they'll become the habit. The Buddha put it this way 2,600 years ago, that whatever you frequently think and ponder upon, that will become the inclination of your mind. So, do we frequently ponder and think about what's wrong with us or what's wrong with other people? A lot of us do. And that becomes the pattern. And just the way we can practice anxiety and depression, we can practice generosity. We can practice compassion. We can practice, so often use this gesture of putting a hand on the heart, even if you don't mean it, just the activity, even if you intend to be kind but you don't feel kind, that can change in a very deep way your relationship with your inner life. So we're now coming down to the pathway of really unwiring the somebodyhood, the limited somebodyhood, okay? They're saying, like, how do we unwire this landlocked self? And one way of understanding it is to really dedicate or recommit to compassionate witnessing of what's happening. To, with a compassionate and mindful way, notice, okay, here's the thoughts and feelings right now that are making this happen. We need to pause and witness with compassion. What are we witnessing? All these different layers of selfing. It usually can be narrowed down in a clean way, if you want to just begin to practice very quickly, to our thoughts, our felt sense, and our behavior. So we feel stuck. This is the cue. The cue is, if you want to practice more compassionate witnessing, whenever you're feeling stuck in some way, feeling tight, feeling uncomfortable, feeling reactive, when you know you're not aligned, that's when you go pause and, okay, bear witness. What am I thinking right now? What am I believing? I often ask myself that. When I'm really feeling bad in some way, what am I believing right now? Because if it's out of your awareness, it controls you. But if you can compassionately witness it, you have more choice. Then you bring the compassionate witness to the felt sense. What am I feeling? Feel your body. Now that takes practice, because a lot of us are kind of cut off and living up here. Feel your body, because if it's out of awareness, it'll control what's going on. If it's in awareness, you actually come into more aliveness and more freedom. What am I believing? What am I feeling? And notice your behavior. Am I withdrawing? Am I criticizing? Am I getting busy? Am I playing out an addiction? Now, one of the inquiries that's really powerful in this compassionate witnessing is to notice, what's the sense of somebody right here? Even as you're listening right now, what's the sense of somebody? Is there a somebodyhood that's listening? Somebody that's trying to catch on to something or isn't sure it fits them? Or what's the somebodyhood? Sometimes it's very faint and sometimes it's really, really acute. Very visceral, very easy to find, the somebodyness. If there's strong wanting, strong fearing, really strong, you'll feel it. So the process of compassionate witnessing begins, as I'm just describing, with noticing the thoughts, the feelings, the behaviors. But there's a second piece beyond the recognizing of it that's essential. Because I've been talking about how usually along with somebodyhood, there's a second arrow of, I don't like this person. To unwire it, you have to recognize what's going on and follow that up immediately with a friendly presence. You can't unwire it unless there's a quality of heart in it. It's just essential. You can use a gesture, as I often do. You can use words. You can just simply have the intention to hold what's happening with kindness. But the witnessing has to be compassionate witnessing. I'm going to give you some examples in a few moments of how we use this, but I want to just give you one more piece for compassionate witnessing. So you've recognized it. Okay, I'm having judgmental thoughts and I'm feeling a squeezed feeling in me and I'm pulling away, or I'm about to write an email that's not nice. So you witness all that, right? And then you immediately forgive it. You go, it's okay, sweetheart, or, in some way you do your offering kindness. Then the third piece, I sometimes use the word drop. You just, okay, rest back again, let go. Come back into presence, re-establish presence with your senses right here, right now. Come right into the center of now. Because in the moments that you come fully back, you'll sense a real transparency to the somebodyhood. You can't find the self when you're really, really resting in presence. Okay, so those are the three elements. Witness it, recognize, okay, here are the patterns going on. Offer friendliness, and then relax back into your senses. And the somebody gets very transparent. And that's all you need to do, by the way, because the idea is not to vanquish somebody. It's just to remember the light that shines through. Okay?